Did you know that in Gig Harbor, it is only fully sunny 139 days a year, whereas the national average is 205 days a year? So this is what people do. They come here when it's July and August, and it's the most beautiful place on earth. They pack up everything they own, they move here, buy a house here, and boom, October hits, and they're totally surprised. I see it all the time. People move here because it's fantastic in so many ways, but they don't have their eyes open to all the other things, and nobody has educated them about those things, and then they have a surprise on their hand and they're not happy with what they find, and that's what we're going to talk about in these videos. And the worst part about this is all these things are predictable. These people are moving here blinded, and what they need to have is a local expert to educate them all about Gig Harbor, the pros and the cons of it all, so their eyes are wide open and they know exactly what they're getting into, and there's none of those negative surprises 3 or 4 months down the road after uprooting their lives and moving here. And that's what my team does. My name is Darren Rivers. I am the Northwest Realtor, and I am managing broker of the Rivers Group. And we help hundreds and hundreds of families relocate to Gig Harbor all the time. And that's part of what we do, is we really educate people on what Gig Harbor is all about, what the great things about it are, what the things to have your eyes wide open for, just so you don't have any of those negative surprises. And we're going to get into 12 things that you need to know about Gig Harbor if you're considering moving here. So Gig Harbor gets lots of great attention, and most of it is well-deserved. It really is. I mean, look at this. We've got beautiful waterfront. The scenery is great. The way of life is fantastic. It's got a nice community feel, a little bit slower pace than the big cities, top-rated schools, safe environment, all those things. All those things are absolutely real, and Gig Harbor deserves all that good attention. So realize this is all coming from me, and I am a transplant, right? I came up here over 30 years ago from Southern California, and I love it here and I wouldn't live anywhere else. But here's the thing, is a lot of people come up here in the summertime, July or August. It's the most beautiful place on earth. It's sunny, it's warm. The downtown Gig Harbor is active with just people and activities and events. The restaurants are packed. It's a great place to be, and they think this is what it's like all the time. And then the fall and winter hit, and you're in a completely different environment. So then you transition from that perfect weekend getaway where you choose to uproot your life and move here, and then 3 or 4 months later, it's fall and winter, and you're driving home in the dark, and it's rainy, and it's cold, and the streets are empty, and you're like, what did I get myself into? So believe me, I am not talking you out of Gig Harbor at all. I love Gig Harbor. I think it's the greatest place to live in the world. I just want your eyes wide open as to what you're getting into, and that's what we're going to go into. In this video, we're going to talk about 12 different things that might come up and surprise you if you're not prepared for them. But if you're prepared for them and you know what you're getting into, and that's okay with your lifestyle, then I promise you, you will never regret moving here. All right, so these 12 facts are in no particular order of importance at all, but I do want to go through each one and kind of talk about each one and just make sure that you know what you're getting into. So the first one, number 12, if you will, on my list is the social scene of Gig Harbor. And it's what you need to be prepared for if you're moving to a small-ish town like Gig Harbor is. So the city limits of Gig Harbor is under 13,000 people. Now, the greater Gig Harbor area, the Gig Harbor mailing address, the Peninsula School District, which Gig Harbor is in, now we're talking 40,000, 45,000 people or so. So it's not that small, but it's certainly not Seattle. It's certainly not Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, any of those big cities. We're nothing like that at all. So our social scene is very, very different. So this might be something that really attracts you because you don't want the big city hustle and bustle, or it might be a negative if you want that city vibe and all the things that go with big cities, such as sporting events and the theaters and things like that. We don't have that here. We have small community events. We have something called the Maritime Festival. It's actually happening tomorrow. They're going to shut down all of Harborview Drive here, have a parade for all the community members. People stack the streets. There's local vendors and booths and all that sort of stuff. We're sitting right here in Scansey Park. Actually, I'm standing in Scansey Park. And this is another hub of activity that we have, especially in the summertime. Every Thursday, there's the farmers market right here in Scansey Park. And every Tuesday is the summer concert series. People come out here, they put their lawn chairs out under the pavilion right over behind the camera over there. A band plays on every Tuesday night for the summer concert series. It's a free concert. This is how our community comes together, is these smaller events like that. We do not have any big professional sports teams. We do not have big professional professional theater productions, anything like that. If you want those, you got to go to the bigger city. Now, a lot of people frequent those from here, but it's an hour drive to get to Seattle, and that's okay. You don't have to live in it to enjoy it, and that's what Gig Harbor has, is this great smaller town feel to it. I just want you to have your eyes wide open that this is more of a low-key vibe for sure. And even the Gig Harbor Chamber of Commerce has this on their website. There's not many restaurants that are open that late. Most of the town shuts down around 9 o'clock. If you don't get your meal ordered by 8:30 or so, you're not going out to dinner. Now, there are a few pubs that stay open till well after midnight, and they have some food as well. The Hayu Hihi, the Flotation Device, Tide's Tavern, things like that. But most of like the sit-down restaurants that you consider a little bit more nicer dining, more, I mean, nothing wrong with those other places, but you know what I mean, a little bit more nicer dining, they're going to shut down at 9 o'clock. The median age of residents in Gig Harbor is 46 years old. So take that for what it's worth, but this isn't exactly like where 20-year-olds relocate to, especially for a lively environment. So if you want the nightclubs, if you want that nightlife, Gig Harbor may not be the spot for you. Now, you could go frequent those places. Tacoma's only 15 minutes away. Seattle's only an hour away. So there's plenty of opportunity to go do it. But if you want it in your backyard, Gig Harbor's probably not the place for you. But if you want more of the little bit quieter, slower paced sense of smaller community, then Gig Harbor's right up your alley. Okay, let's move on to fact number 11 about Gig Harbor, and that is the cost of living here. And this is going to be a strange subject because it can be cheap on one perspective and it can be really expensive on another perspective. So if you're moving from San Francisco area, Southern California, one of these big cities like that, you're going to move here and you're going to be like, wow, look at these homes on the water over here with their own docks. And you can get into that for $3 or $4 million, really? Because that would be $20 million in Los Angeles. So if you're coming from someplace like that, this is a pretty cheap place to live. But if you're comparing it to the area around us, we're kind of expensive. And if you're coming from someplace in the Midwest or the South, you're going to be astonished at what our home prices are. We are 17% above the average cost of living in America. We're 17% above that. And get this, in Washington State, we're 46% above the average cost of living for all of Washington State. Compared to the rest of the nation, we're 13.1% higher in just what the cost of groceries are. Get this, the average family of 4 here in Gig Harbor spend over $1,400 a month on just groceries. So let's flip this the other way though. There's some benefits to living here in Gig Harbor, or in Washington for that matter. One of the things is, currently anyway, we have no state income tax. We're one of 7 states without a state income tax, so that saves you money right there. The other thing is our utility bills average 20% less than the rest of the country. I'm not sure exactly why or where this comes from, but our utility bills, our electricity, our natural gas, all of that is cheaper on average than the rest of the country. So closing up this fact number 11 as far as cost of living, it's just things to be aware of. Not only are you coming in and buying a house, you're gonna have your monthly mortgage, you just gotta take into account what your property taxes are gonna be, what your insurance is gonna be, what your grocery bill is gonna be. If you're a commuter and you're going over the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, what your bridge tolls are gonna be and things like that. So those are things just to keep in mind of what our cost of living is here compared to other parts of the country. And again, you might be coming from a place that's really expensive and you're gonna think you're living dirt cheap here, or you're gonna be coming from some place that's really less expensive and you're gonna be like, my goodness, it's expensive to live here. Fact number 10, and this is probably the biggest one that people talk about when they talk about living in the Gig Harbor area or the Pacific Northwest in general, and that is the weather and how gray or how rainy it actually is. So get this, we are in the beginning of June right now. The last few days have been beautiful, sunny, warm, shorts, t-shirts, the whole 9 yards. Well, today, look, it's gray. I mean, there's some blue sky up there sometimes once in a while, but it's a gray day. It's kind of cool. I'm wearing a sweatshirt. There might be a little bit of rain today. And this is what people get down about as far as the Pacific Northwest, especially in the winter months, is how gray it is. It's not how much it rains, it's how gray it is. So we get 139 days of sun. I mentioned this earlier in the video. The national average for days of fully sun is 205. We're way less than that at 139. Another thing to keep in mind with that is we have 153 days of some sort of precipitation. Now get this, I come from Southern California. It's sunny all the time. I didn't own any rain gear or an umbrella or anything like that. The temperature was just fantastic. Up here, it varies, and we're gray and we're wet, and there's more names for precipitation here in the Pacific Northwest than any place I've ever heard of. We have rain, we have drizzle, we have dampness, we have hail, we have snow, we have showers, we have thunderstorms, we have all of it. And then every once in a while, we'll get a news report about an atmospheric river coming in. Now, wrap your head around what that might be. Now, keep in mind, when we're talking about annual rainfall, we get about 46 inches a year here in Gig Harbor. Now, that is less than Boston. That is less than New York. That is less than Chicago. That is less than Dallas. That's even less than Miami. The difference is we get it slower over a longer period of time, and it's gray. From October to May, it's just gray. Our days are kind of shorter in those winter months because we're so far north, right? And it's gray and kind of dark and kind of gloomy, and we get kind of the seasonal depression syndrome that people talk about. So if you come up here in the summer and it's the most beautiful place on earth and you think it's just going to be marvelous year round, you're going to have a rude awakening when November, December, January, February roll around and it's dark and gray, kind of wet and kind of rainy, and the roads are always a little damp and things like that. If you're prepared for it and you know it's coming, then it's not nearly as bad. But you just have to have your eyes wide open that we do have a gray season and it lasts quite a while. Now, let's put a positive twist on all of this. Yes, it's gray. Yes, it's kind of damp. But overall, we're really mild. I mean, in the winter, it snows a couple times a year. It's a couple inches and it lasts a couple days. That's it. For the most part, it gets into the mid-high 30s at night, mid-high 40s during the day is kind of our average temperatures in the winter. I golf year-round up here for sure. Now, there's a few days, of course, that it's just kind of crappy out and I don't. But for the most part, we do all the stuff outside, whether it's winter or summer. We don't need to change gear. There's no snow on the ground for the most part. And the summers, it is perfect. It is beautiful. It's 80 degrees every day. There's no bugs. There's no humidity. The days are long. It's the most beautiful place on earth. So if you can trade off some of those darker, gloomy winter months for the glorious summer we have, then this is the place for you. So to wrap up the weather portion of this is just be prepared. If you're going to come in the summer and check it out, come in the winter and check it out too, so you know what you're getting into. This is not for everybody. I have people that sell their homes because they want to be in a more sunny environment year round, and I get it. But I have lots of people relocating to Gig Harbor because they like the seasons. They like the variation of it, and it's okay in the winter to be a little cooler and a little darker. I mean, we're not Wisconsin. It's not 10 below zero, and it's not like you're bundled up in front of your fireplace at the house and afraid to leave. We do all the same stuff outside in the winter as we do in the summer. We just add on an extra layer. Okay, fact number 9 is going to talk about the job market here in Gig Harbor. So realize Gig Harbor is not a big area. It's very much a suburban setting, a mom and pop kind of environment. We are not the hub of industry. So if you're looking for a job here in Gig Harbor, there's going to be jobs in the medical field, obviously. We have a hospital here and other professional buildings. There are professional services. There's civil service positions, of course, touristy type of employment or job opportunities or entrepreneur opportunities. But that's what you're going to have in Gig Harbor. If you're looking for a job in more of the big professional industries, you're probably going to have to go to Tacoma or Seattle. So if you're living here, you're going to be commuting one direction or the other. Now, here in Gig Harbor, we have lots of pilots. We have lots of firefighters as well. And think about it, they don't work every single day. So just because a pilot has to commute up to SeaTac Airport and drive up there, which takes 45 minutes or so, they're not doing it every day. They do it a couple days a week. Same thing if you're in the fire department and you work for a department way away from here and you have an hour drive, say, well, you do it 2 days a week. It's not that big of a deal. But if you have to commute to Seattle every single day because that's where your job market is and you want to live here, that might get tiresome. And then you have bridge tolls to consider and everything like that. So if you're looking for local employment, just know that we don't have big industries here. Your choices are going to be somewhat limited here in Gig Harbor itself. Okay, so fact number 8, and we're going to talk about property taxes here in Gig Harbor. And relatively speaking, they're pretty much on the same rate as other places in the state. We are a little less than 1% of the assessed value of your property, and the assessed value generally is 10 to 15% below market value, generally. Anyway, but since Gig Harbor home prices are higher than our surrounding areas, your property tax is higher here. The average property tax in Gig Harbor is almost $6,200 a year, whereas the average property tax in the rest of Pierce County is just barely over $4,000 a year. So there's quite a big difference, and that's because the homes are more expensive. Everything is based on the value of the home, right? So some people don't take that into account when you're buying a more expensive house here in Gig Harbor and you have a higher mortgage payment. You also are going to have higher property tax. And sure enough, every time it comes to a voting season, there's always a levy on board, for public services or to do an improvement to the school system or things like that. And if that gets voted into effect, that is added to your property taxes. Now, you can go to Texas where your property tax is like 3 or 4% of your assessed value. That's huge. So here we're very reasonable with it being less than 1%, but it's just another tax that we have here in Washington. Right now, like I said earlier, we are currently income tax free but we're taxed in a lot of other areas. Property tax is definitely one of them. Gas tax, alcohol tax, tobacco tax, all of those things. There's taxes on everything, including our property tax. Okay, fact number 7 is that you will probably not be on the sewer system. You're probably gonna have a septic system, and this is very relevant, especially if you're coming from big city environments. Here's an example. I moved here in 1995. I grew up in the Los Angeles area. First house I bought, I was 23 years old, 1996, and they said, "Oh, you're on a septic system." And I'm like, "What? What's a septic system?" I had no idea. I just grew up on a standard sewer system. So get this, a septic system is you basically have a sewage treatment center in your own backyard. Okay, so I'm standing in front of Henley Septic. This is kind of their yard, and this is what they, some of their pump trucks and things like that. So unless you are in the small city limits of Gig Harbor, you're likely gonna be on a septic system. And so you have a holding tank and it pumps out to a drain field, and there's some maintenance that's required. Now, the good thing about this is you don't have a monthly sewer bill. Now, this can be kind of expensive, like $100 a month. You don't have that at all, but you might have to maintain your system, get your tank pumped once in a while. It depends on the usage that you have, how big your family is, what kind of material you're putting down in there. You should be mindful of what you put down your sinks and things like that. You don't want to put a lot of grease or stuff like that. You just kind of want the normal things that go down toilets, down shower drains, gray water, things like that. Another thing to be mindful of is if you are on a waterfront home or you have a sensitive environmental area, you might be an alternative septic system. And these are a little bit more sensitive. They require annual monitoring by a company. Of course, that comes with a fee just to make sure everything is in proper working order so you're not contaminating the ground around your house. So the two things I really want to touch on when it comes to septic systems, if you're not familiar with them, is to become familiar with them. You just want to educate yourself on how you're properly using those systems. And again, you don't want to put things that should not go down the drain. You don't want to flush baby wipes down the toilet. You don't want to put a lot of bacon grease or things like that down. You're supposed to not have garbage disposal. So you just have to be mindful of what you're putting down your drains and down your toilet to make sure you keep your septic system healthy. The other thing is the Pierce County Health Department has all the septic records of everything that's going on with the property. So if you're new to a property, you can see when it was last inspected, when it was last pumped, if there's any repairs. All of those things are recorded on the Pierce County Health Department website. Also, if you're a home buyer, it is the seller's responsibility to have the system pumped and inspected. And here comes one of those big tank trucks now. As I was saying, if you're buying a home, we always throw in a septic contingency where the seller has to have the septic system pumped and inspected within the last 12 months. And then you have a chance to review those records to make sure they're to your satisfaction. It's a contingency that I put in every offer I write up for a home with the septic system. Hey everybody, so we are driving to our next location and I got Ashley Ford with me, with my director of operations. But what I wanted to put in this part of the video is right over here is going to be a QR code. So one of them them is going to be for our relocation guide to Gig Harbor, and the other is going to be our neighborhood quiz. So make sure you look at both of those. The relocation guide is great for answering questions, a lot of which we're addressing here in this video or many of the other videos. As we're driving to our next location, why don't you look those up? Okay, fact number 6, and I'm talking loud because the road is loud, but that is the Comanera's bridges. There's 2 of them, and I guarantee they are going to affect your life. So a little history. About 20 years ago, there was only one bridge, and traffic was a nightmare during commuter hours. It'd take an hour to get back and forth over the bridge. They built the second bridge, rectified all those traffic issues. That's great, but now we have a bridge toll. So if you have a good to go pass, you get charged going over that way towards Tacoma $4.50. No charge to come back. There's no relief in sight for that bridge toll. It's going to be in place for the next several years. And there's 90,000 drivers that go over this bridge every day. Hey, remember a few points ago, I was talking about the weather in gray? Well, welcome to early June in the Pacific Northwest. It's a rainy day, and here we are. So the bridge, it's a daily factor. If you are a commuter and you're going over that every single day, you're going to have that bridge toll. If you live and work in Gig Harbor, or you work from home, or you're going the other direction, maybe it's a non-factor for you, but just keep in mind, this bridge will impact your life, and God forbid there's a wreck on it, you're going to get hung up for quite a while. So while we're en route to the next location, we're going to do fact number 5, and that is the housing market here in Gig Harbor is not necessarily very forgiving for buyers. We are still technically in a seller's market. We only have about 4 months worth of inventory, that is supply of homes on the market. And what does that mean exactly? That means if no new listings went on the market today, all the listings currently on the market would be sold in 2.4 months. And just so you know, a balanced market is 4 to 6 months worth of inventory. So technically we're still in a seller's market. Also, another stat here for you, the average price per square foot in a home in Gig Harbor is $423 per square foot. Now, I hate the square foot metric. It's the worst one in the world because it doesn't take into account if the house is updated or not. It doesn't take into account if the house is sitting on the water or if it's in a tract home community. It doesn't take into account if you're on a 1/4 acre lot or a 20 acre lot. And all those play big factors in the overall value of the home. So price per square foot is my least favorite matrix to measure, but it is one to measure. And being at $423 per square foot, that's up 5.5% from a year ago. Now, there are some other things to keep in mind with the market. I mentioned that it is technically still a seller's market, but it's not necessarily acting like a seller's market. There are homes that are still sitting on the market, and it's simply that they were overpriced, but they're sitting on the market. 34% of homes have had a price reduction, and that's up over 9% of homes that had price reductions at this time last year. So buyers are not quite in the urgency. They're still backs kind of up against the wall. There's not a lot of negotiating power, especially if it's a new listing. But if you're looking at one of those homes that was just overpriced and it's been sitting on the market for a while, you as a buyer might actually have some power to negotiate with. And another thing to keep in mind here, when you're looking online and there's estimates of what the home is worth from Zillow or from Redfin or any of these other computer models, realize that they're just computer models. Nobody from those companies have been in that house. They don't know the condition of the house. They don't know if it has a brand new roof or if it needs a $50,000 roof. They don't know if the furnace is 25 years old or if it's completely been redone. They don't know what the condition of the home, if there's mold in the home or if it's been totally remodeled. They don't know anything like that. All they do is they look at the size of the house, the size of the lot, and compare it to the average home sale of similar type homes in the area. That's it. It's a computer model. You've got to take it with a huge grain of salt. So this is why it's super important that when you are looking to buy or sell a home in the Gig Harbor area, you need to work with a local expert. You need to know somebody that knows the micro markets within our greater market. You need to know neighborhoods that are holding their value and the types of homes that are holding their value versus ones that might struggle. And you need to know what you're getting into as a buyer to make sure you're making the right purchase for you. You're spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even millions of dollars. You want to make sure that you're not being led in the wrong direction. Work with a local expert. Work with our team. That's what we are. We're a bunch of local experts. Okay, fact number 4 about Gig Harbor is our healthcare system and some of the limitations that go with it. Right now, I am standing in front of St. Anthony's Hospital Emergency Department, and this is an improvement in our healthcare system here in Gig Harbor. So as I was saying, prior to 15, 18 years ago or so, there was no hospital here. So if you had a true emergency, you had to go over to Tacoma, whether that be in an ambulance or if you're driving yourself, you had to cross the Narrows Bridge for emergency healthcare. So this is a big improvement, but there are some limitations to it. This is not a trauma center. If you have an urgent healthcare problem, whatever, maybe a breathing problem, maybe heart issues, they can certainly take care of some of that. But if you have huge cardiovascular event happening, if you have a huge trauma event happening, you're going to have to be transported to one of the trauma centers in Tacoma, and that's where they would take care of you. So our healthcare system here is dramatically improved. It's still just a little bit limited. The things to keep in mind about the healthcare system here in Gig Harbor is there's lots of professional buildings. There's a number of urgent cares. So for regular appointments, things like that, even specialties, pediatrics, orthopedics, oncology, all that stuff they have, there's all of those. They all have their professional offices here for your normal appointments. It's just the emergency stuff. If it's mild, moderate, we're in good shape. If you're having something really, really big, you may have to be transferred to a hospital that's not here in Gig Harbor. You may have to go over to Tacoma. All right, we are talking about fact number 3, and that is how great our school system is. So I am standing in front of Swiftwater Elementary. This is a pretty new elementary school here in Gig Harbor. It's only a couple of years old. But if you look at schooldigger.com, you'll see that the Peninsula School District, which is where Gig Harbor sits, is in the top 10% of all school districts in the state. We rank in the top 10% in every category there is. This is a great public school district. So if you are a family looking for a quality community, a quality neighborhood with good schools, Gig Harbor Peninsula School District is the place for you. So this is one of the reasons why Gig Harbor is so sought after, is because of the school district, and why our prices are quite a bit higher than our neighboring communities. If we just go a little bit north and cross into the Kitsap County line, you're in the South Kitsap School District there, and statistically, according to their rankings, they rank much lower on those overall lists. Therefore, families are more hesitant to go there. They spend more money to move here to Gig Harbor just to be in the proper school district. Okay, number 2 on the list of facts that you should know about whenever you're considering moving to Gig Harbor, and that is some environmental issues. And we're going to go into a couple different subjects here. So first of all, let's talk about big natural disasters. We don't have hurricanes. I was going to say we don't have tornadoes, but we actually did have one a number of years ago, and it took out a couple houses. But that is like super rare. Hasn't happened since, and I can't, I think it was 20 years prior to that anything like that happened. So it's really not a concern for the most part. We do have earthquakes. This is an earthquake zone. We're part of the Pacific Rim, right? So we do have earthquakes. I've lived here for 30 years. I've only felt one. I've lived in some pretty big earthquakes down in Southern California. I was in the Northridge quake, things like that. In all my time in Washington, I've only felt one earthquake ever. It was the Nisqually quake back in 2001. So as far as like natural disasters, earthquakes is probably our biggest concern. We don't really have like giant flooding issues. We do have Mount Rainier, which is an active volcano, supposedly. It last erupted 500 years ago. So, who knows? We'll see if that ever happens in our lifetime. But the things that you do need to be concerned about, especially if you are buying a piece of property or a home, are smaller things such as wetland issues, or if you happen to be in a designated flood zone and what that will do to your insurance costs. Are you on an embankment where there could be possible mudslide? Are you in a critical area? Are you within 100 feet of a salmon creek? Those are the things that you really need to pay attention to, because they will affect where you can build your home, how you can expand your home, what you can do with your property. There's water right back there. There's setbacks from how far a structure can be built from existing water or places that are declared wetlands. So those are the things that we all dig into through feasibility studies, things like that. Make sure you know what you're getting into on a piece of property. free and that there's no surprises and you can do what you want to do with the land that you are buying. Now, last thing that we're going to talk about, the number one fact on my list is what our crime is like here. So everywhere you go in the world, there is some sort of crime, but statistically, Gig Harbor is a pretty darn safe place to live, especially when it comes to violent crime. We are way low on the statistics here as compared to other parts of the country, especially bigger cities. Now, where we're higher on the list is some of the theft and vandalism, but there's reasons behind that. If you're going to steal a car, you're probably going to go to a nicer neighborhood and get a nicer car. Well, that's what Gig Harbor is. You're probably going to go to a nicer neighborhood to break into a nicer house that has nicer stuff. Well, that's what Gig Harbor has. We also have a lot of higher end retail here, so there's more theft when it comes to shoplifting and things like that, and all of those add to those statistics on the crime statistics from the theft standpoint. So we're a little higher on the stats when it comes from that, but there's a reason behind it. I've lived here for 30 years. I've raised my kids here. I had no safety issues whatsoever. I would never steer anybody away from Gig Harbor, especially when it comes to a safety standpoint. I think it's fantastic. And so this is another question I get when in regards to safety is what neighborhoods might be better than the other. Gig Harbor is all really uniform when it comes to that. There is no safer neighborhood, and there's certainly no bad neighborhood. It doesn't matter if you're in Artendale or Rosedale or Fox Island or Canterwood or Gig Harbor North or downtown, any of those, the statistics are all going to be about the same. I feel very safe in all of the neighborhoods. My female colleagues, the women on my team, nobody feels threatened about going to any of these neighborhoods with their clients. It's a really, really nice, safe, secure place to live. Okay, everybody, that is 12 facts that you should know about Gig Harbor if you are considering a move here. Again, my name is Darren Rivers. I'm the Northwest Realtor and I'm managing broker of the Rivers Group. All of my information is right here. Please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help you with any questions regarding Gig Harbor or the surrounding areas and to see if it's a good fit for you.